Okay, next thing I want to do is to show you another way to do that same thing we just did. Okay, now the reason that we are going to do it a different way is because this other way has some advantages that the first way doesn't. Okay, so just keep in mind that we're doing the same thing again, but in a different way. Cool. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold on to this clip because I actually legitimately like that groove that we made. But I'm going to make a new audio track with the original loop on it again. Okay, so let's solo that. So here's our original kind of 80s riff. Cool. Okay, so let's get rid of the second half of it because I'm not going to need it. You can leave it on there, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do now. What I'm going to do now is slice this to a new MIDI track. Okay, what that's going to do is basically Live is going to automatically chop it apart, put each part, which it will call a slice, into a sampler, and then let me play this with MIDI. Okay? Let's walk through it. So first, I'm going to control click on it, and I'm going to go to slice to new MIDI track. Okay, now, first thing it's asking me is, how do you want me to decide what a slice is? Transient is going to mean every attack, which is going to be pretty good in this case. If the attacks weren't so clear as they are this time, I might say every eighth note, which in this case is going to get me the same result. Quarter note would get me the same result. You might want to play around with this depending on what you're slicing. Warp marker might work if I had to manually warp it. But transient's going to work pretty well. Okay, and then it's got some presets for how you want it to slice. I've always just used the built-in, and it's worked just fine. Preserve warp timing, generally speaking, yes. We want that on. Okay, so I'm going to say okay. Now what's going to happen, it's going to think for a second, just a quick second, and it's going to make me a MIDI track, and that MIDI track is going to look like this. Okay? Now, it actually did do the full clip all the way to there. Even though I deleted that, it went to the original length of the clip, and that's just fine. Okay, so what we see here is a MIDI clip that's just going up, right? That seems weird, but here's why it's doing that. What we have here is all of our slices. Oops. Let me solo this clip. Okay, so look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right, this is our next one, and that's where our big snare is. So if I go to my MIDI clip, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right, so there's our big hit. So what this MIDI clip is doing is it's just stepping through every slice that Live found. So if I play this MIDI clip soloed, it's going to sound exactly the same as the audio. But look at how it's triggering samples down here. Look for this little yellow play button. Okay, so it's just triggering samples. If I look at the actual MIDI clip, look at my notes are called slice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. I can rename those if I want. But what I could also do is, move these around. Let's zoom in a little bit here so I can see what I'm doing. And, right, here's all the notes that it found. So let's just change them. Normally I'd want to think this through a little bit more. but okay. So now I have a whole new drum loop. Change that note. Don't love that note. Cool. So now I have, in a way, a lot more flexibility over the notes because each audio sample is now just one of these little ticks, right? And I can move these around all day long. And I can do all kinds of crazy stuff with them. So it can be easier to move stuff around after you've converted it into a MIDI clip. Now, another thing I can do is I can go to my drum rack. So I'm going to hit Shift Tab to see the settings in my drum rack, and there's some control I have over the sound of each individual drum hit here right from the rack. So let's go to a new video and talk about that.